According to the posting on the YouTube channel, a video of the story called Le fameux dispositif quantique à 11 000 € qui développe la conscience à l'infini. On May 1st, 2024, a video clip entitled Deus Ex Silicium was posted on the YouTube channel Le fameux dispositif quantique à 11 000 € qui développe la conscience à l'infini, the famous quantum device for 11,000 €, which develops consciousness indefinitely. This video contained deliberately false information discrediting the honor and dignity of Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich, the inventor of the device for developing concentrations of eternal life, PRK-1U, as well as the business reputation of a legal entity of individual entrepreneur, Grigori Grabovoi PR Consulting Technologies of Eternal Development, and the business reputation of a legal entity, EWO Infinite Developments SA, aimed at inciting hatred and hostility against the inventor and the legal entity manufacturing the device, which contains the main signs of the crimes qualified by the article incitement to hatred or enmity, as well as humiliation of human dignity, and the article slander. Considering the act of vandalism in relation to the PRK-1U device, intellectual property legislation has been violated. In case of violation of the exclusive right to an invention, utility model, or industrial design, the author or other right holder, along with the use of other applicable methods of protection and liability measures established by law, has the right to demand payment of compensation from the violator at his choice instead of compensation for damages. First, in the amount from 10,000 rubles to 5 million rubles, determined at the discretion of the court based on the nature of the violation. Second, in double the amount of the cost of the right to use the invention, utility model, or industrial design, determined based on the price which, under comparable circumstances, is usually charged for the lawful use of the relevant invention, utility model, industrial design, in the manner used by the violator. The patent holder has the right to demand publication in the official bulletin of the Federal Executive Authority for Intellectual Property of a court decision on the misuse of an invention, utility model, industrial design, or other violation of his rights. Violation of inventive and patent rights, responsibility for which is provided by law, expressed in the illegal use of an invention, utility model, or industrial design, may consist in particular in the use of these objects without the consent of the patent owner, except in cases where such use is permitted by law without the consent of the patent owner, expressed in an author's or license agreement registered in accordance with the established procedure, as well as in the presence of such an agreement, but not in accordance with its terms or for purposes that are not defined. Since there is a marking on the PRK-1U patent pending, this marking serves as written in the law to notify the public, business, or potential infringers who will copy the invention that they may be liable for damages, forfeiture, and legal ban. Under the inscription on PRK-1U patent pending, there are 3 numbers, 2 of which are patents, and the third one is the number of the submitted application for an invention. Information about the fact that intellectual property objects protected by law also include submitted applications for inventions is in the license agreement. Due to the fact that many applications can be submitted on the basis of 3 such intellectual property objects, the inscription on the device patent pending prevents disassembly of the device without the permission of the manufacturer. In addition, the physical device PRK1U is connected to groups of devices, including access to them through web accounts. This connection of PRK1U as well as PRK1UM with groups of devices refers to know-how, production secrets, due to the approved process structure and signed confidentiality documents. Disassembling the device without the manufacturer's permission is prohibited by trade secret. If information about the cost of parts of the device is not transferred on the basis of a sublicense agreement in which there is a confidentiality clause, this violates commercial confidentiality. Trade secret is a legal regime, and know-how is confidential information, which is the basis of a trade secret. It is in relation to know-how that a trade secret regime is established. Disassembling the PRK1U, of which know-how is an integral part, is classified by law as a criminal offense. Thus, methods and systems of interaction of physical device PRK1U connected with groups of devices, including access to which through web accounts, is protected not only by patents, but also simultaneously by know-how. Since according to the PRK1U and PRK1UM instrument systems, confidential parts of the know-how are held by various enterprises and persons making calculations and carrying out tests and production by sublicensees, disassembly of the device without permission violates the rights of many persons. The violation of the law is as follows. First, starting from 10:54 to 15:34 minutes of the video, Stefan Marty illegally disassembled the device without the consent of the owner of the PRK1U device, while voicing deliberately false information about the device and device components. The device was created on the basis of 2 currently valid patented inventions by Grigori Grabovoi: method for prevention of catastrophes and device for its realization, and an information transmission system. Information about patents is given on the website. The use of Grigori Grabovoi's invention, protected by patents without the consent of the patent holder, is a violation of inventive and patent rights. Patent law consists in conferring an industrial property title to the applicant, guaranteeing him the right to enjoy the invention and to prohibit or authorize its exploitation by other persons, as recalled by the National Company of Industrial Property Attorneys, CNCPI. Therefore, patent infringement is defined as the infringement of the patentee's rights. Article L615-1 of the Intellectual Property Code, CPI, states in fact that any infringement of the rights of the patent owner, as defined in Articles L613-3 to L613-6, constitutes an infringement. Therefore, in principle, there is patent infringement when a third party who doesn't have the consent of the patent holder directly or indirectly exploits the invention as defined by at least one of the patent's claims. Article L615-14(1), deliberate violation of the rights of the patent owner as defined in Articles L613-3, L613-6, is punishable by imprisonment for a period of 3 years and a fine of 300,000 euros. If the crime was committed by an organized gang or on a public online network, or when the facts relate to goods dangerous to human health, safety, or animals, the penalty is increased to 7 years in prison and a fine of 750,000 euros. According to the articles of the Intellectual Property Code, CPI, Article L613-2, the degree of protection provided by a patent is determined by the claims of the invention. Article L613-2-1. The scope of a claim covering a gene sequence is limited to the part of this sequence directly related to the specific function concretely set out in the description. Article L613-3 are prohibited in the absence of the consent of the patent owner, a. the manufacture, supply, placing on the market, use, import, export, transshipment, or possession for the aforementioned purposes of the product subject to the patent. B. The use of the process that is the subject of the patent, or when the third party knows or when the circumstances make it obvious that the use of the process is prohibited without the consent of the patent owner, the offer of its use on French territory. C. The offering, placing on the market, use, import, export, transshipment, or possession for the aforementioned purposes of the product obtained directly by the process which is the subject of the patent. Ordinance number 2018-341 of May 9, 2018, relating to the European patent with unitary effect and to the Unified Patent Court, Article 23(1). The ordinance enters into force on the same date as that of the entry into force of the agreement on a Unified Patent Court, signed in Brussels on February 19, 2013, and whose ratification was authorized by Law number 2014-199 of February 24, 2014, entry into force June 1st, 2023. Point 1.1. Stefan Marty immediately reports the following about his illegal actions. So, subscriber name, sent me a machine as well as the entire package of documents, that is the manual, invoices, and the contract with the client. There is also a USB storage device. He allowed me to show them to you on the condition, of course, that I conceal the identity of the owner. This indicates that Stefan Marty, having illegally obtained the PRK1U device, obtained the right to use it without a legitimate reason and used this right to spread slander against the patented device. The crime of the act consists in the fact that Stefan Marty, having information about the device, in the video plot he shows a brochure with a description of the device, tells the viewer his conjectures while not being a researcher with the necessary knowledge in the field of quantum mechanics. The person who handed over the device to him also had no grounds for transferring intellectual property. By closing information on the video on the contract number, which he didn't sign, Stefan Marty tried to avoid responsibility for his actions, knowing full well that he violated the rights of inventor Grigori Grabovoi, the legal entity manufacturing the device, all legal entities granting the right to use the intellectual property object, including PRK1U, sublicensees, distributors, in general everyone since Stephen Marty opposes technology to ensure eternal life for everyone. The words containing the hashtag of the trademark Grabovoi, which is located on PRK1U, TikTok networks alone have more than 700 million views and more than a billion views on the internet. Therefore, slander against Grigori Grabovoi violates the rights of hundreds of millions of people. Point 1.2. According to paragraph 3 of the World Declaration on Intellectual Property, historically, intellectual property has been and remains one of the main and necessary elements of the progress and development of all mankind. Intellectual property rights are an important and integral part of any legal framework that aims to regulate the civil conduct of authors and users on an equitable basis and thus ensure universal protection of the interests of all. Paragraph 4. Intellectual property rights are a key and integral tool in efforts to address the fundamental challenge of development for all, which at the end of the 20th century is the most important and universally recognized problem facing humanity. Point 1.3. On January 11, 2021, it was carried out at the request of lawyer Borodin the scientific and technical examination of the compliance of the PRK1U 3-mode device for the development of concentrations of eternal life with the declared functions. During the expert studies, it was found that the certificates presented to the experts correspond to the required regulatory documentation, allowing the use of PRK1U 3-mode devices for the development of concentrations of eternal life in the countries of the European Union. The PRK1U 3-mode device for developing concentrations of eternal life was tested for electromagnetic compatibility in the state laboratory Dvorsky Laboratories of the state institution Mikhailo Pupin Institute, IMP, which is subordinate to the Serbian Ministry of Science. Tests of the 3-mode device for the development of concentrations of eternal life, PRK1U, for electromagnetic compatibility were carried out at Dvorsky Laboratories in full compliance with the Directive on Electromagnetic Compatibility of the European Union. Therefore, the certificate of normal parameters of the PRK1U device issued by Dvorsky Laboratories according to the directives of the European Union in accordance with international law allows to place the CE marking on the device. Additionally, there is a CE certificate obtained in the European Union. Dvorsky Laboratories has been appointed by the Serbian Ministry of Economy to issue such certificates for the sale of devices with characteristics within the framework of European Union directives. Therefore, there are no restrictions on the use of PRK1U devices in the European Union. The Dvorsky Laboratories report in English on the tests of the device for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1U 3-mode with the conclusion that the characteristics of this device comply with European Union standards is on the website indicated on the back panel of the device on the page. The PRK1U 3-mode device for the development of concentrations of eternal life has passed comprehensive safety tests in the ANL laboratory with a certificate from the Vinci State Institute. The report on the first page has a CE marking that applies to the entire device along with an electrical power plug with an adapter. A photo of the device with a CE mark is on the first page of the report documentation. The report of the ANL laboratory in English on the tests of the device for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1U 3-mode with the conclusion that the characteristics of this device comply with European Union standards is on the website indicated on the back panel of the device on the page. The certificates obtained on the basis of these reports are given on the website page. Information on inventions with patent numbers is located on the device body, patent pending 2148845, 2163419, 626735151. The device is manufactured under the trademarks Grabovoi and Grigori Grabovoi. The study of the provided documents allows experts to conclude that the devices for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1U 3-mode used in the field of education are not harmful to health according to the certificates of Serbia on normal parameters of electromagnetic compatibility and safety, on the basis of which the device is marked AAA-CE. Experts concluded that the devices for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1U 3-mode correspond to the declared functions. The conclusions of the experts prove that all manipulations by Stefan Marty to measure a certain power of the device about the inconsistency of the device with the declared functions are profanation and misleading the viewer in order to humiliate the business reputation of the legal entity, individual entrepreneur, Grigori Grabovoi PR Consulting Technologies of Eternal Development, and distributors, sub-licensees distributing the training program with PRK1U. Stefan Marty believes that he can conduct any tests without being a certified expert, refute the conclusions of licensed institutes, Dvorsky Laboratories, Da Vinci State Institute. The fact that this individual doesn't have the necessary knowledge to evaluate Grigori Grabovoi's know-how is evidenced by the information provided by him on the website. It contains the following information. Deus Ex Silicium is a French language YouTube channel, the main topic of which is digital electronics, in particular dedicated to semiconductors and their applications. Created and presented by microelectronics engineer Stefan Marty, it deals, among other things, with integrated circuits, computers, game consoles, consumer electronics, professional electronics, knowledge dissemination, imaging with a scanning electron microscope, X-ray imaging, exposure of certain consumer products, reverse engineering, measuring instruments, vintage electronics, kits for development, and so on. The specified engineer, without providing any educational documents, has no idea what a biosignal is. Specializing in exposing certain consumer products, Stefan Marty tries to make money by providing the viewer with untrue information and outright violation of intellectual property laws. Having disassembled the PRK1U device live, Stefan Marty began to actively seek out the cost of the device's components without taking into account the cost of the software, but of course, he didn't know this. Stefan Marty tries to mislead people on the basis of manipulating the cost of the parts of the device and accordingly distort public consciousness in terms of opinion about the PRK1U device. Stefan Marty imposes the opinion that a small number of parts of the device is defined as simplicity of the device and therefore not functionality, which do not correspond to reality for the following reasons. Point 1. PRK1U is not a simple device, but is classified as a unique specialized electrical device and is related to complex technology. To classify an electrical device as complex technology, it is not necessary to have a large number of parts. Here are some principles and evidence from experts confirming this. 1.1. Functional complexity. A device can be complex due to its functions and capabilities, even if it consists of a small number of parts. PRK1U is a complex device based on the fact that it has two switches for 3 operating modes, since the third mode uses the internal functions of the device to turn on. This is also defined as a new level of technology. 1.2. Integration of advanced technologies. The use of advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence and automatic control systems makes the device complex regardless of the number of its components. During operation, the PRK1U device can independently switch off the third mode under high loads, and after some time, after self-restoration of the device functions, independently switch on the third mode. This function of the PRK1U was first implemented by physical and mathematical calculations. Then, this function was confirmed in practice by the protocols of sublicensees and other users operating the devices. The specified function to independently switch off the third mode and after some time, after self-restoration of functions, to independently switch on the third mode based on a small number of parts of the device is implemented by a method of special interaction of the electromagnetic field of the device with individually configured for a specific sublicensee or another user optics from 4 lenses and taking into account, in accordance with patents for inventions, a biosignal and radiation of thought. This method refers to the most promising model of artificial intelligence, since the minimum number of elements is used for the precise functioning of the device and optics distributed in a certain way in a special configuration of the electromagnetic field formed by the operation of the device. In this method of implementing the functions of artificial intelligence, the speed of information transfer is equal to the speed of light or higher than this speed. This is also defined as a new level of technology. 1.3. Automation and self-regulation. Devices that can automatically adapt to operating conditions, self-regulate, and perform complex tasks are also considered complex. The PRK1U device, created in accordance with Grigori Grabovoi's patents for inventions, method for prevention of catastrophes, and device for its realization, which describes the use of a biosignal, and a patent for the invention information carrying system, which describes the functioning of a system of devices using thought radiation, automatically self-regulates in an electromagnetic field created by precisely calculated parts of the device and an optical medium in the form of lenses and distances between parts and surfaces of the device. In physical and mathematical calculations of this, calculations of the angular coefficients of radiation are used according to the reciprocity condition, which is applicable to any two bodies in space exchanging radiation. By introducing the concept of mutual radiation surfaces, one can obtain an expression for the closure condition. Considering a closed system consisting of 3 surfaces, we can assume that the first surface is an emitter and then obtain the radiation energy falling on the second surface and the radiation energy falling on the third and first surfaces, respectively. This approach calculates the angular emission coefficients between the elements of the PRK1U. The angular emission coefficients are calculated using quadruple integrals using the Ranke-Kut method. This requires the use of high-speed electronic computers. In each PRK1U device, the arrangement of lenses differs from the arrangement of lenses in all other PRK1U devices. Therefore, individual calculations of angular radiation coefficients are performed for each device. As a result of these calculations, not only three lenses are individually arranged on the surface of the device, but also the arrangement of the electrical circuit components and optical elements on the threads inside the device body are specially pre-optimized. Since the weak radiation of thought is taken into account, the calculations are performed with high accuracy. Mathematically, the approximation of thought radiation is performed to calculate the processes described in the patent using the concepts of information signal or wave function. In physics and mathematics, information can be represented as signals that can be described using equations. The following actions are used. Point 1. Mathematical representation of a signal. A thought is represented as an information signal that can be described by a wave function. Point 2. Transfer of information. The process of information transfer using wave synthesis equations is described. The well-known equation is used, where Hamiltonian of the system, which is used to model the evolution of the wave function in time. Point 3. Interference and coherence. For the physical and mathematical model of information transfer over long distances from physical devices PRK1U used by sublicensees and other users to devices accessed through a web account and to devices in systems of 14, 22, 23 devices to laser radiation installed in the PRK1UM device, the principles of interference and coherence of waves are used. Maxwell's equations are used to describe electromagnetic waves that can transmit information. The specified complex physical and mathematical calculations which are made for each device to calculate the location of lenses on each device in other complex calculations based on individual data also define the PRK1U as a complex device. Unauthorized disassembly of the PRK1U without informing the manufacturer of the devices of the date of disassembly, which is taken into account in the physical and mathematical calculations of the system for transmitting information from the device to all other devices, PRK1U and PRK1UM, slows down the speed of the physical process of operation of the associated optical systems, which counteracts the development of concentrations of eternal life. Since legally eternal life doesn't differ from the established concept of life, then by unauthorized disassembly of the device, Stephen Marty prevented the development of concentrations of life, which relates to counteraction to life and accordingly qualifies as a violation of the law. 1.4 Multifunctionality. Devices that can perform several functions or operating modes are classified as complex, even if they have a relatively simple design. According to this criterion, the PRK1U is classified as a complex device since it has 3 operating modes. In addition, there are many ways to work with these modes. The specified method of artificial, deliberately false, that is, fabricated and therefore criminally punishable formation of evidence for the prosecution consists in the fact that Stefan Marty operates exclusively via the internet. Stefan Marty, who illegally obtained all the documentation on the device, the training program, illegally announced the clauses of the contract, which is confidential, which also violated the law. It follows from the video that the person who entered into an agreement with the legal entity EWO Infinite Developments SA didn't purchase the device, but a training program with PRK1U in a complex intellectual property object. However, based on the name, the famous quantum device worth 11,000 euros, which develops consciousness to infinity, the so-called whistleblower Stefan Marty misinforms the viewer, actually commits a false denunciation. According to Article 226-10 of French Penal Code, the denunciation carried out by any means and directed against a specific person or a fact which is likely to entail judicial, administrative, or disciplinary sanctions and which we know to be totally or partially inaccurate when it is addressed either to a judicial officer or administrative or judicial police or to an authority with the power to follow up on it or to refer it to the competent authority or to the hierarchical superiors or to the employer of the person denounced is punishable by 5 years of imprisonment and a fine of 40,000 euros. The falsity of a denunciation containing an accusation must necessarily be confirmed by a legally binding decision on the acquittal of the accused person on his innocence or termination of the case, proclaiming that the reality of the fact hasn't been established or that this fact cannot be imputed to the person appearing in the denunciation. The PRK1U device is not for sale, but is provided for use in accordance with the license right under a sublicense agreement for the use of the training program on the teachings of Grigori Grabovoi with PRK1U. This sublicense agreement is signed in accordance with the condition of clause 5.3 of the agreement only with the sublicensee, who guarantees that before signing the sublicense agreement, he tested a sample of the Grigori Grabovoi PRK1U device and concluded about the normal performance of this device for the development of concentrations of eternal life. The specified clause 5.3 provides, in accordance with the international norms of licensing law, a guarantee of the absence of claims. Extract from the main part of the sublicense agreement. 1.1. The licensee transfers to the sublicensee the non-exclusive right to use the following intellectual property object: all text, audio, and video materials of the training program on the teachings of Grigori Grabovoi in all available languages on magnetic media and in the Internet library of the Education Center. Information about the training program is given on the websites. 1.1.1. Under this sublicense agreement, taking into account individual data, The sub-licensee is provided with remote internet access to Grigori Grabovoi's device for the development of concentrations of eternal life, PRK1U, developed on the basis of valid patents of Grigori Grabovoi, information carrying system, and method for prevention of catastrophes and device for its realization. Remote access is provided through real-time video surveillance of the device via the internet. Video surveillance that allows you to develop concentration using a 24-hour device can be performed from any place where there is internet and from any device, computer, laptop, iPad, smartphone. Using this device, the concentrations described in the materials of the training program on the teachings of Grigori Grabovoi are developed, and on this basis, the development of other concentrations for creative purposes is carried out. The basic characteristics of the device sample are given on the websites. Valuation under a sublicense agreement. According to the sublicense agreement for the object of intellectual property, it is reported the intellectual property provided for use at a price of 9,700 euros for 8 people, that is 1,212 euros for 1 person, includes all the materials of the training program in different languages on a flash card, including new ones. Development according to individual data, production of a device for the development of concentration PRK1U, and granting the right to use the PRK1U for 4 years and beyond. For 4 years, access to the library of the Education Center, which contains all the materials of the training program and into which all the materials of Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich are constantly uploaded. The flashcard with the training program contains a specially developed service software shell for accessing materials. This shell program is linked to the copy protection program through a developed middleware environment. This works when loading databases onto flashcards are very expensive, since the block diagram for the middleware environment requires lengthy development and a high level of qualification of programmers. In addition, the cost of materials loaded onto a flashcard at the price at which they have been successfully sold for several years on Amazon, in online stores 3w.gagri.com, 3w Grigori Grabovoi Center, that is, the real market value of the materials of the training program is 10,280 euros. Access to the library of the Education Center for 4 years is estimated at a comparable price. Since according to sales carried out on the website www.grigorigrabovoi.world, there is information that an annual subscription to the library of the Education Center costs 2,500 euros, then the amount of a subscription for 4 years is accordingly 10,000 euros. Development based on individual data and production of PRK1U contains the cost of labor for physical and mathematical calculations, programming, cost of components, delivery, assembly, and other work. The total result is a comparable price. In accordance with the expert approach of Leontiev to the assessment of intellectual property, the following is established. Any object of intellectual property should be understood as an independent and integrated business knowledge system. Each property object combines qualities that allow it to be distinguished not only by type and category, for example, intellectual property, patent, know-how, technology transfer, regulated by articles of the Civil Code, but also to identify it from the position of legal affiliation and taking into account the amount of benefits received from it. Any qualitative result of intellectual activity in the field of public relations becomes an object of intellectual property, which has at least three groups of criteria: technical or artistic, legal, and economic. Initially, the property is characterized by a technical quality content that allows to evaluate it from the point of view of functional use. These are the basic technical qualities: functional suitability, wear and tear, resource. The suitability of all the works of Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich is proved by the results of the work documented and set out in the three-volume book, Practice of Control, The Way of Salvation. There is no wear and tear on the works of Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich from the point of view of their repeated reading, since there is numerous evidence that in case of repeated and multiple reading of the works of Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich, the technologies set out in the works are more deeply mastered, and moreover, the material is understood in a new way. This is due to the ideology and practice of ensuring eternal life for all embedded in the texts of Grigori Grabovoi works, in which the work brings the result of ensuring eternal life without time limit. This also proves that the works of Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich have an infinite resource. The suitability of the device for the development of concentrations PRK1U is established as follows. Point 1. With physical and mathematical theory, mathematical calculations, experimental results confirmed by a large number of doctors of physical, mathematical, and technical sciences who were members of the editorial board of the journal Electronic Engineering and published in this journal. Point 2. With patents for inventions by Grigori Grabovoi, on the basis of which the device was created. Point 3. With video test reports of the device with good system results, which were conducted by all 128 test participants without exception. Point 4. With signed protocols of successful tests of the device. Point 5. With more than a year period with hundreds of tests and operations of the device without negative results, with numerous positive results. Part 2. According to the text, quotes, some time ago, our channel talked about quantum devices and other miracle technologies of pseudoscience. The last time it was with Healy in September 2021, and well, you will see this compared to the device in question today. The name of the previous device will act as a small player, but at a price of 2,500 euros, it's still very expensive compared to the fraud it represents. And well, no, the device we're about to discover was sold for a total of 11,000 euros with complete serenity. End quotes. 2.1. Each device for the development of concentrations of eternal life, PRK1U, has individual parameters of optics and other elements associated with persons using the devices. The disclosure of information about the element base of the device to the public refers to crimes, the publication of private life information about persons without their consent, and the illegal transfer of production secrets, know-how. 2.2. Slander is widespread in the TV show, since the instructions for the device don't say that the device is quantum. 2.3. The cost of 11,000 euros, this is not the cost of the device, but the cost of the products and works for 4 years under a sublicense agreement granting the right to use a complex intellectual property object, which includes PRK1U. The sublicense agreement is signed according to the conditions written in it Only after the sublicensee tests the device and makes sure that the device is working properly to develop concentrations of eternal life. This proves that there is no fraud event, and the highlighted text in quotation marks refers to a deliberately false enunciation, since further on in the telecast it will be reported that the presenters of the telecast have a license agreement in which it is written that the device is not sold to a sublicensee, but is provided for use for 4 years. Point 3. According to the text, how did I get this device? And so how did this machine get into my hands? So a few months ago, a certain subscriber who wants to remain anonymous and whom I will name, it is unclear how, contacted me and offered to deliver me a strange device that he found among the belongings of his loved ones who recently died. And it is not by chance that I clarify this little detail in my message. And in his message, the subscriber's name explains to me that we're talking about a certain PRK1U, the famous quantum device for 11,000 euros. End quote. It is repeatedly stated in the text, the slander, that 11,000 euros is the cost of the device, and the slander that it is written on the PRK1U device that it is a quantum device. The official name of the device, which is available in the CE certificate, has been removed from the text of the TV program by deleting the text device for the development of concentrations of eternal life. This gives reason to believe that those responsible for the TV show and the participants of the TV show are opponents of eternal life and therefore of current life, since current life is an integral part of eternal life. Therefore, it is necessary to conduct an investigation about their possible guilt in the fact that people who had the device among their belongings died. It is necessary to establish whether an organized criminal group acted which transferred money to those who paid for the sublicense agreement and then killed these people, and whether Stefan Marty was immediately part of this organized criminal group. Point 4. According to the text, does our thought emit a wave? Did you know that our thoughts emit a wave? I didn't. 4.1. This phrase gives reason to believe that Stefan Marty doesn't have a secondary education, since there is the following information in the school curriculum that at the micro level, matter can manifest itself as a wave. Wave-particle dualism is a property of nature consisting in the fact that material microscopic objects can, under some conditions, exhibit the properties of classical waves, and under other conditions, the properties of classical particles. Numerous scientific experiments have proved that thought is material and can manifest itself by radiation, and the power of thought can produce many actions recorded by objective means. Physicist Boris Isakov established that human thoughts are material. Moreover, according to the results of his calculations, their mass varies from 10 to the minus 39th power to 10 to the minus 30th power grams. Speaking of thought, it's impossible not to take into account the phenomenon of consciousness and the peculiarities of its interaction with the outside world. According to academician Vernadsky, it is necessary to accept the influence of consciousness on phenomena occurring in real space. And physicist Weizsäcker wrote that consciousness and matter are different sides of the same reality. American scientists Jana and Dunn, in the book The Boundaries of Reality, cite the following considerations. A physical theory cannot be completed until human consciousness is recognized as an active element in establishing reality. Thousands of good results of work with PRK1U, recorded and posted on social networks, confirm that human consciousness, expressed including thoughts, is an active element in establishing reality. Modern science has established that thought has an energy potential capable of directly interacting with objects and subjects of the material world. Scientists from the American University Queens conducted an experiment in which volunteers were seated in the center of the room and another person's gaze periodically looked at the back of their heads. Approximately 95% of the subjects noted that they clearly felt the effect of gaze on themselves as a fleeting pressure on the back of the head. The theory and practice of energy informational structures are currently used to explain the principles of work of human thought. Thought is considered a powerful source of information programs that, by being included in the energy field structures of the body, adjust the program of life. The energy informational structures of an individual, according to this, are interconnected with other energy informational structures. To explain the energy informational theory, Professor Okatrin established particles microleptons from which thoughts are formed. The characteristics of these particles correspond to radiation from the human body, that is, biosignals. Such particles can freely penetrate through bodies and objects, pass light, and even be perceived by the organs of vision. Okatrin was able to experimentally confirm the existence of microlepton fields. During the experiment, the scientist asked a female psychic to radiate a certain field, giving it information. The whole process was recorded on a special photoelectronic device. The photos showed how something like a cloud separates from the light shell surrounding the woman and begins to move independently. Such thought forms, in the form of biosignals, according to the scientist, saturated with certain moods and emotions, can influence people. The issue of thought transmission at a distance has been of interest to more than one generation of scientists. Back at the end of the 19th century, the British physicist William Crookes mathematically proved the wave theory, which assumed the existence of ethereal waves of small amplitude, penetrating the human brain and capable of evoking in the recipient's mind an image similar to the original one. Even Sigmund Freud established the existence of the possibility of direct transmission of thought from person to person. He established through scientific experiments that one of the properties of telepathy as a rudimentary means of communication between people and a physical process that has become mental at the two ends of the communication chain. American geneticist Bruce Lipton argues that concentration of thought multiplied by true faith is able to normalize matter. Lipton's experiments have shown that mental influence is able to normalize the genetic code of an organism. That is, it manifests itself as a normalizing biosignal for genes. In the late 1980s, the geneticist conducted experiments to study the behavior of the cell membrane. In 2009, scientists from the USA and Argentina created, based on the factor that thought manifests itself as a wave, a recognition system for mental speech that is able to voice thoughts using a special synthesizer. Thanks to this development, scientists have given the paralyzed young man the opportunity to communicate. Talent scientists went further and created a prototype of an electric wheelchair that can move in any direction solely thanks to the power of thought. Project manager Matteo Matteucci explained that the wheelchair has a cap that reads electromagnetic signals from the brain and transmits them to the engine. At the Institute of Radio Engineering and Electronics of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the scientific director of which was a physicist, academician Gulyaev, a special video camera made it possible to record the wave radiation of thoughts. Point 4.2. In the previous paragraph of evidence in the patents for the inventions of Grigori Grabovoi, the presence of a biosignal and thought radiation is established, and this proves that Stefan Marty conducted a custom broadcast on a corrupt basis, since he didn't inform viewers about the patents, numbers of which are written on the back panel of the PRK-1U, according to with which PRK-1U is assembled. Stefan Marty doesn't report that the physical device PRK-1U works in accordance with the patent information carrying system in continuous round-the-clock communication with a web account containing devices whose system and how they interact, Stefan Marty doesn't know. A photo of one of these devices, a web account with access to which is transferred to each sublicensee. Also, Stefan Marty doesn't report that PRK-1U works as a part of a group of devices, where the second device for developing concentration of eternal life, PRK-1UM, has two lasers in accordance with the patent of Grigori Grabovoi, method for prevention of catastrophes, and device for its realization. As well as in accordance with the patents, it has Arduino boards, a motion sensor connected to one of the lasers, devices for reading SD cards with programs, and much more that works like human consciousness in various relationships. Photo PRK-1UM. Stefan Marty doesn't tell viewers that PRK-1U operates periodically as part of systemically connected groups of dozens of devices. Photo of instrument groups. Based on this, it was established that Stefan Marty told about the PRK-1U in such a way that if you pulled a wheel out of the car and said that since one wheel doesn't allow you to carry 3 tons of cargo, then the car doesn't work. This is a criminally punishable way of presenting to the public on the air a commercial product protected by patents, trademarks, international certificates of conformity, examinations, collections of recorded results that proved the effectiveness of the product. 5. According to the text, quote, "And since we are doing questionable things, when we carefully observe the so-called lenses, which we need to focus on visually while we use the device, we see that they are simply attached to the surface of the body. There is no hole at the bottom to let any ray coming from inside the body through. They are just lying right on the surface. Something tells me that this is strange." End quote. According to the patent information carrying system, and in accordance with physical and mathematical calculations, it's not allowed for the use of a physical device to pass a direct beam of light from the lenses on the surface of the body to the lens inside the body. But this is presented by Stefan Marty as dubious and strange. At the same time, in the connected to the physical device under the patent for the invention information carrying system, device for which video surveillance is carried out via the internet, there are 3 openings in the housing, but this is prudent with the aim of falsifying information about the patented instrument system Stefan Marty is hiding from viewers. A photo of such a device is located in the preceding paragraph 4.2. By such concealment, Stefan Marty commits a criminal offense. Point 6. Stefan Marty's phrase, "So now I'm going to throw away the hopes of those who believe that quantum magic has a place in this last chain because, as you can see, it's there only for decoration. It serves no purpose, and I'm going to explain why." End quote. 6.1. What can a person who doesn't have the necessary level of knowledge and shows only one device from a system of several devices working simultaneously explain to people? As an ordinary layman, he conveys to the viewer at a primitive level his understanding of the components of the device. Quote, "First of all, you should know that the stand on which the components are mounted is what is known in electronics as an unhardened and drilled test plate. It's made of bakelite and measures 100 by 140 millimeters. And if you want to know how much it costs, here is the 100 by 160 millimeters version for €3.70. Of course, it's never used in the final product as it is intended for prototyping purposes only. But in any case, to the small-time crook who made this system, it is a part because it's not functional, and the way the components were placed in the circuit is nothing more than a deviation." End quote. In the description of the world by the methods of quantum mechanics, the vertical component of the world for action extended to infinity is equal to the horizontal one. Taking into account that time is considered as a horizontal medium, then not only vertically, but also the horizontal component of the world in time to the future, Grigori Grabovoi gives accurate control warning forecasts, thereby also proving the highest level of his psychic abilities in the world to obtain accurate information. This is confirmed by the first volume of the collection of protocols and certificates, Practice of Control, The Way of Salvation, published in 1995 by the publishing house Soprichastnost, as well as by other published control warning forecasts of Grigori Grabovoi. Grigori Grabovoi's pandemic warning forecast, published in the newspaper Control Option Forecast in 2002, was confirmed in 2020. And confirmation after 18 years, which make up the spatial cycle with an added half, means Grigori Grabovoi's access to infinite into the future information. This is also confirmed by the digital form, where from the number 18, it can be seen that the action is transferred from 1 into 8, denoted by the same symbol at the infinity sign. No recorded or published forecast by Stefan Marty is known. 6.2. Stefan Marty calls the one who made the circuit of the PRK1U device a petty fraudster, having no reason to do so. Since fraud is qualified by income through deception or abuse of trust, and there is no deception or abuse of trust in granting a license for the right to use a complex object of intellectual property, because the sublicensee received the following products under the sublicense agreement, and the following information is available. 6.2.1 receives a training program on a flashcard almost equal to the cost of the sublicense agreement, which is permanently transferred to the sublicensee. Stefan Marty didn't report the price of the works of the training program in different languages transferred to the sublicensee, amounting to €10,250. 6.2.2. receives for use for 4 years a 3-mode device for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1U, which works as part of a group of devices. 6.2.2.1. This device is connected by technologies of patents for inventions, method for prevention of catastrophes, and device for its realization, and information carrying system to a group of 3 devices, video surveillance of which is provided to the sublicensee. In this group of 3 devices, as can be seen from the video surveillance, one of the devices has, in accordance with the physical and mathematical calculations for online video surveillance devices, additional elements on the body, including an additional element in the form of a mirror element and an arrow, and has 3 holes in the body, through one of which the glow inside the body is visible. Stefan Martin didn't inform the audience about the availability of continuous round-the-clock communication between the PRK1U and a group of 3 devices. He didn't report that the device from this group has additional details that he didn't consider. That is, he had no right to draw conclusions about the device. 6.2.2.2. This device is connected by technologies of patents for inventions, method for prevention of catastrophes and device for its realization, and information carrying system with a group of control devices, video surveillance of which is not provided to sublicensees. 6.2.2.3. The increase in the activity of the device is carried out in accordance with patents for inventions using the parameters obtained from the results of the operation of the system of 14 devices, the system of 22 devices, the system of 23 devices. In the system of 23 devices, there is a PRK1UM device that has a part of the details, the boards with mini controllers, chips, which are software and hardware tools for building systems in the field of electronics and robotics. And the program written by Grigori Grabovoi in the C++ programming language with the wiring framework program used in the PRK1UM board refers to a unique program that for the first time implemented a complex physical process that hadn't been implemented before. However, all these facts proving the complexity of the instrument systems used were not reported to the audience. According to the pricing rates of many countries, only the round-the-clock video transmission of objects in real time for 4 years, the term of the sublicense agreement, exceeds significantly the amount of 11,000 euros. 6.2.3. The following facts additionally prove that Stefan Marty intentionally commits crimes of artificially creating evidence of accusation, knowingly false denunciation, slander. Stefan Marty reports about the PRK1U, quote, and this machine was sold to him as being able, among other things, to help him overcome his illness. From an ethical point of view, it is very doubtful, end quote. At the same time, it is clear to everyone that Stefan Marty committed a deliberately false denunciation and slander with this phrase, which is a crime since he himself reports before this phrase. Here are some excerpts from the 18-page sublicense agreement. Article 4, for example, informs the customer that the device provided to him doesn't belong to him, despite the payment of 10,700 euros. Article 4 of the sublicense agreement proves that the device PRK1U was not sold to the sublicensee in order to overcome the disease. The slant of the fact that, and this machine was sold to him, has been able, among other things, to help him overcome his illness, from an ethical point of view, it is very doubtful, is also proved by the following text read by Stephen Marty from the sublicense agreement. Quote, "But what really amused me, if I may say so, was the disclaimer of liability on the very last page of the contract that the client is required to sign. It says that he is fully aware that the PRK1U is provided to him without any guarantees of results and that this device is not intended to treat or diagnose any diseases." End quote. Stephen Marty also committed the crime of slander and knowingly false denunciation with the following phrase, quote, "Here are some excerpts from the 18-page sublicense agreement between Grigori Grabovoi and the customer, referred to as the sublicensee," end quote, since Grigori Grabovoi didn't conclude such an agreement. 6.2.4. Before signing the sublicense agreement, the sublicensee provides a protocol for using the PRK1U with good results. This completely eliminates fraud, as it excludes deception or abuse of trust. Stephen Marty didn't inform the audience about this. 6.2.5. Information about the used elements of the PRK1U has been available since 2016 on the official website of the manufacturer of the PRK1U, on the page with a photo of the device, including a photo of the elements inside the device body. Information about this is available on the website of the Archive of Internet Pages, which proves the absence of fraud, since before the conclusion of the sublicense agreement, the sublicensee could familiarize himself with the elements of the PRK1U used both on the case and inside the case. There are messages in the email with which those who wanted, they further clarified information about the elements of the device. Therefore, Stephen Marty's action to destroy the PRK1U refers to vandalism, since a photo of all the internal parts of the device has been on the site for 8 years. Since the PRK1U device was shown as a museum exhibit at the exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art from October 18 to 24, 2021 in Paris, Donors, Paris, October 18, 24, 2021, curated by Rain Alienor as a work of art, then the actions of Stephen Marty should be qualified under Article 322-3-1 of the French Criminal Code, vandalism against a work of art. Law number 2016-925 of July 7, 2016 on freedom of creativity, architecture and heritage, Article 322-3-1 of the Criminal Code provides that destruction or damage is punishable by 7 years in prison and a fine in the amount of 100,000 euros when it relates to cultural property that belongs to the movable public domain or that is exhibited, preserved, or deposited, even temporarily, either in a French museum, library, media library, or archival service, or in a place dependent on a public person or a private individual carrying out a mission of general interest. 6.2.6. There is no fraud, since in the scientific and technical examination of the compliance of the device for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1 youth remote, with the declared functions, a conclusion was made about the compliance of the PRK1U with the declared functions. This examination proves that Stefan Marty committed crimes qualified as defamation, deliberately false denunciation, with artificial creation of evidence of the charge, since after destroying the device and examining the parts of the device, he made the opposite conclusion to the conclusion of the specified scientific and technical expertise. Namely, he concluded that the PRK1U didn't comply with the declared functions, since he made a public accusation of fraud. At the same time, Stefan Marty fabricated the evidence of the accusation as he reported that the crystals on the threads that crumbled during disassembly of the device relate only to the protection of the device from opening, although these crystals, in accordance with physical and mathematical equations, relate to the functional elements of the device. The link to the specified scientific and technical expertise of the compliance of the device for the development of concentrations of eternal life PRK1U 3 mode with the declared functions dated January 11, 2021, which has been posted since January 11, 2021 on the official website of the device manufacturer. 6.2.7 Stefan Marty, having publicly stated that the device for the development of concentrations of eternal life, PRK1U, doesn't correspond to the declared functions, committed the crime slander against hundreds of people in different countries who signed protocols on the good results of using PRK1U, who, having reported their surnames and names, told about it on social networks or allowed to publish their protocols in the collections of the results of the use of PRK1U. These people can file statements about the crime of slander committed against them by Stefan Marty to the law enforcement agencies of the country where they are located and where there is access to a YouTube channel containing the said slander. In the appendix to the protective conclusion, statement of a crime to law enforcement agencies. 6.2.8 Stefan Marty, having publicly stated that the device for developing concentrations of eternal life, PRK1U, doesn't correspond to the stated functions, committed humiliation of honor, dignity, and business reputation in relation to hundreds of people in different countries who signed protocols on the good results of using PRK1U, accusing them of perjury with his statement. These people, having provided their surnames and first names, told about their good results of using PRK1U on social networks or allowed to publish their protocols in collections of results of using PRK1U. These people can file lawsuits against Stefan Marty in the courts of the countries where they are located and where there is access to a YouTube channel containing the specified humiliation of honor, dignity, and business reputation. In the appendix, statement of claim to the court. 6.2.9 All sub-licensees can write a statement of crime to law enforcement agencies and a statement of claim to the court, since in the terms of the sub-license agreement concluded with them, there are the following points proving that the sub-licensees have received good results using the PRK1U. 2.7 The sub-licensee is obliged to attach to this agreement, signed before the conclusion of this agreement, a protocol of tests conducted by the sub-licensee of a sample of a device for the development of concentrations PRK1U with good results. 5.3. The sub-licensee guarantees that prior to signing this agreement, he has tested a sample of Grigori Grabovoi's device PRK1U and has made a conclusion about the normal working of this device for the development of concentrations of eternal life. 5.4. The sub-licensee is responsible for the use of the intellectual property object. Stating publicly that the PRK1U device is not functional, Stefan Marty slanders the sub-licensees that they didn't test a sample of the device for the development of concentrations PRK1U with good results. In addition, with such a statement, he accuses the sub-licensees of having entered inaccurate information into contracts that relate to financial documents. Therefore, sub-licensees have the right to receive large amounts of financial compensation from Stefan Marty in court for the damage caused to them. 6.2.10. In relation to Stefan Marty, any person can file statements about a crime with law enforcement agencies and lawsuits for the fact that the right to reliable information about eternal life technologies was limited by defamation, which this person could have started to master using the PRK1U device earlier. Thus, slander and unreliable information about technologies for the development of concentrations of eternal life using the PRK1U device counteracts the mastering of technologies of eternal life by people misled by slander and unreliable information, that is, violates their rights to eternal life in their physical bodies. Since the right to life doesn't differ in legal status from the right to eternal life, this slander and inaccurate information violates people's constitutional right to life. In fact, the crime of genocide is being committed by the described slander and unreliable information. Point 7. In his video, Stefan Marty says, I also tried to figure out why the power supply was behaving in a heretical manner in mode 3. The explanation is terrifying. In this mode, the way the two buttons are connected to each other and to the module causes current to flow back into the inverter, causing it to switch and short out, resulting in a voltage dip and a shutdown at the output. While the capacitor is charged, there is light, but after turning it off, it discharges in half a second, so there is no light. Then the voltage suddenly rises to 12 volts, and the same cycle starts again, causing the blinking. If you like, it's as if each flash was the result of a catastrophic shock to the converter. I'm telling you, it's terrible. I don't think the guy who did this has any idea what's going on. End quote. Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich stated that he created his inventions and PRK1U using his abilities of controlling clairvoyance and forecasting without receiving information on this topic from people or from existing texts. And at the same time, he applied the methods of the well-known orthodox higher mathematics and physics, in which he is a specialist after graduating from the Faculty of Applied Mathematics and Mechanics of Tashkent State University. The physical and mathematical equations justifying the described patents have been repeatedly verified and published in scientific publications. Quantitative solutions have been obtained according to them. The efficiency of these inventions is also confirmed by the results of experiments. A scientific article by Grabovoi containing a physical and mathematical justification and supporting calculations has been published in the journal Electronic Engineering of the Russian Academy of Sciences. The editors of this journal, together with famous scientists, tested the physical and mathematical theory of Grigori Petrovich Grabovoi, his calculations, and experimental results confirming the calculations, and after that published his scientific article. This editorial board includes Editor-in-Chief, academician of the Moscow Aviation Institute, Doctor of Technical Sciences, Professor Dyakov. Doctor of Technical Sciences Avdeyev, PhD Bartinyev, Doctor of Technical Sciences Pondarevsky, Doctor of Physical and Mathematical Sciences Werner, Doctor of Technical Sciences Garyainov, Deputy Editor-in-Chief, PhD Tchunyan, PhD Dyagilev, Doctor of Technical Sciences Emlyanov, Doctor of Technical Sciences Ivanyutin, Doctor of Technical Sciences Kazionyer, Doctor of Technical Sciences Kazurov, corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences Krasnikov, Doctor of Technical Sciences Minaichev, PhD Popov, PhD Rudenko, Doctor of Physical and Mathematical Sciences Shermergor, PhD Yakovlev. The legitimacy and pioneering novelty of the described patents, method for prevention of catastrophes, and device for its realization, number 2148845, and information carrying system, number 2163419, is recognized by the court, therefore has a judicial adjudication value. Patent expert Elena Dagons on May 30, 2008, concluded that the above patents, number 2148845 and number 2163419, belong to the pioneer ones, that is, have no analogues and prototypes in the history of inventions, and besides, the formulas of inventions in these patents are multilink with absolute novelty. This information of Dagon's is also confirmed by the patent attorney Kopayev, who made sure of this as a result of checking patent purity. He reported that not only patents, but principles and approaches, methods and systems used in patents by Grabovoi, when in inventions he used biosignal generation in an optical system, a change in the intensity of thought radiation to normalize events, had never been registered in any country before Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich's inventions in the entire history of inventions. Moreover, there was no such information before the inventions of Grabovoi, not in any scientific or popular scientific publication in any country in the world. During operation of the third mode of the PRK1U device and the modified PRK1UM device, each switching on of the lamp light is produced from such a physical process in the converter, which is similar to a powerful shock. And the shock action, as it is known, has the characteristics of an explosive one. There are appropriate physical and mathematical calculations implementing Grigori Grabovoi's theory of the wave synthesis of reality in the initial region of the intersection of static and dynamic waves of reality. According to the physical and mathematical equations of this theory, physical processes, similar to the well-known Big Bang theory, occur in the initial area of intersection of a static and dynamic wave of reality. According to these physical and mathematical equations, the Big Bang theory belongs to a special case of the theory of wave synthesis. Grigori Grabovoi graduated from the Faculty of Applied Mathematics and Mechanics of Tashkent State University. Therefore, as a specialist, he conducts physical and mathematical calculations with the help of which, together with experiments that give practical confirmation, implements his theories to ensure eternal life for everyone and uses well-known theories. Everyone knows about the Big Bang theory, general information about which is available on Wikipedia. The Big Bang is generally accepted cosmological model describing the early development of the universe, namely the beginning of the expansion of the universe, before which the universe was in a singular state. According to the Big Bang theory, further evolution depends on an experimentally measurable parameter, the average density of matter in the modern universe. If the density doesn't exceed a certain known from theory critical value, the universe will expand forever. But if the density is greater than the critical one, then the expansion process will someday stop and the reverse compression phase will begin, returning to the original singular state. Modern 2015 observational data show that the average density within the experimental error, a fraction of a percent, is equal to the critical density. There are a number of questions that the Big Bang theory cannot yet answer, but its main provisions are substantiated by reliable experimental data, and the modern level of theoretical physics makes it possible to quite reliably describe the evolution of such a system in time, with the exception of the very initial stage, about 1/100th of a second, from the beginning of the world. In PRK1U, in the shock that is explosive type of action, the physical principle of the evolution of such a system in time is implemented, including, in accordance with the theory and equations of wave synthesis, the initial stage, that is, the beginning of the world. Physico-mathematical equations that make it possible to calculate the characteristics of an explosion from measurements of blast wave parameters were compiled and worked out in practice by Grigori Grabovoi when, from January to April 1986, during pre-graduation practice in the 5th year of Tashkent State University, he worked at the Institute of Seismology and the Institute of Cybernetics of the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Physico-mathematical equations that make it possible to calculate the processes of the evolution of the universe at the initial stage, about 1/100th of a second from the beginning of the world, were compiled and worked out in practice by Grigori Grabovoi during the period from September 1986 to December 1991, when he worked at the Tashkent Design Bureau of Mechanical Engineering of the Ministry of General Mechanical Engineering as a mathematical engineer for space instrumentation. Grigori Grabovoi, on the topic of protection against continuous or pulse periodic laser radiation, used the powerful laser radiation installation available in his sector to conduct experiments confirming his physical and mathematical equations and calculations. Pulse periodic pulses with extrapolation of the results to 10 minus 2 degrees of a second and 10 minus 17 degrees of a second made it possible to calculate using the wave synthesis theory created by Grigori Grabovoi, using mathematical methods of the theory of functions of a complex variable and two other mathematical methods from the very initial stage of the development of the world, from the beginning of the world to the order over hundredths of a second of the world's development. At the scientific meeting during which Grigori Grabovoi defended his doctoral dissertation, Applied Structures of the Creating Field of Information, in 1998, the famous scientist Albert Nikolaevich Nikitin established that the theory of wave synthesis created by Grigori Grabovoi includes Einstein's general theory of relativity as a special case. Due to the fact that, as stated in Wikipedia, according to the Big Bang theory, further evolution depends on an experimentally measurable parameter, the average density of matter in the modern universe. If the density doesn't exceed a certain known from theory critical value, the universe will expand forever. But if the density is greater than the critical one, then the expansion process will someday stop and the reverse compression phase will begin, returning to the original singular state. Modern 2015 observational data show that the average density within the experimental error, a fraction of a percent, is equal to the critical one. In order for the universe to expand forever, Grigori Grabovoi used physical and mathematical methods implementing the reverse flow of current. As it is known, the Rayleigh radiation is considered as one of the main confirmations of the Big Bang theory. The propagation of thought radiation through the operation of the device, together with some elements of the electromagnetic field of the PRK1U and a person in the direction of the reverse current flow before disconnection, allows contact with Rayleigh radiation, which refers to the physical structure of eternal reality. And the reverse cycle, already rarefied by the radiation of human thought and controlled by the electromagnetic field from the region of Rayleigh radiation, allows reducing the average density of matter in the universe, which contributes to the eternal expansion of the universe, which is necessary for the eternal life of all. And also, accordingly, contributes to the development of concentrations of eternal life that normalize events in the direction of achieving eternal life by all. The described function of the device, triggered in the third mode, could itself have a high cost when transferred for use, but in essence, this function is priceless. Due to the fact that modern 2015 observational data show that average density within the experimental error, a fraction of a percent, is equal to the critical one, the creation and use of technology similar to PRK1U, which allows to promote the eternal expansion of the universe for ensuring eternal life for all, is becoming necessary already now. Such cyclical work of the third mode develops human consciousness for the fundamental control of reality for the eternal life of all. On November 22, 1951, Pope Pius XII announced that the Big Bang theory doesn't contradict Catholic ideas about the creation of the world. In Orthodoxy, there is also a positive attitude towards this theory. Conservative Protestant Christian denominations have also welcomed the Big Bang theory as supporting a historical interpretation of the doctrine of creation. Some Muslims have begun to point out that The Quran contains references to the Big Bang. According to Hindu teachings, the world has no beginning and end. It develops in cycles. Stephen Marty unreasonably and illegally called Grigori Grabovoi a sectarian. Point 8. Showing the PRK1U concentration development device, Stephen Marty showed everyone that the Grabovoi and Grigori Grabovoi trademarks are located on the front side of the device. He also demonstrated to everyone that the box with the device included an educational program in different languages. The annex to the agreement contains information on the registration of trademarks, that is, their illegal use in a video constitutes a crime according to Article L717-1 of the French Intellectual Property Code, Code Propriété Intellectuelle, CPI. Point 8.1. Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich's works are protected by registration in various copyright registration structures, including the Copyright Registration Office of the U.S. Library of Congress. TX 7-324-403, dated February 06, 2008, TXU 1-607-600, dated February 08, 2008, TX 7-049-203, dated February 12, 2008, TX 6-975-628, dated February 13, 2008, data type on the official website on the internet, TH0006975-628, 2008, 0213, TXU1-789-751, dated July 25, 2011. The address of the official website of the Copyright Office of the Library of Congress containing registration data, www.cocatalog.log.gov. Address of the Copyright Office of the Library of Congress of the United States of America, Library of Congress, United States, Copyright Office, 101 Independence Avenue, SE, Washington, D.C., 20559-6000. The works, devices, and activities carried out by Grabovoi Grigori Petrovich are protected by trademarks. Of European Union Grabovoi with registration number 009414673, dated February 18, 2011, application date September 30, 2010, and European Union Grigori Grabovoi with registration number 009414632, dated February 18, 2011, application date September 30, 2010. Information about these trademarks is given on the official website of the Office for Harmonization of the Internal Market of the European Union, which registers trademarks. Of Australia, Grabovoi with registration number 1477713, dated July 02, 2012, application date March 1st, 2012, and Grigori Grabovoi with registration number 1477714, dated July 2nd, 2012, application date March 1st, 2012. Information about these trademarks is given on the official website of the Intellectual Property Office of Australia. Intellectual Property Australia. Of Japan, Grabovoi with registration number 11066 G10, dated February 14, 2013, application filing date 03/01/2012, and Grigori Grabovoi has registration number 11066611, dated February 14, 2013, application filing date 03/01/2012. Data on these trademarks is given on the official website of the Digital Library of Industrial Property, DIPO, of the Japan Patent Office. Of China, People's Republic of China, Grabovoi has registration number G11066610, dated October 1st, 2012, application date 03/01/2012, and Grigori Grabovoi has registration number G11066611, dated October 1st, 2012, application date 03/01/2012. Information about these trademarks is given on the official website of the State Intellectual Property Office of the People's Republic of China. Of United States of America, Grabovoi has registration number 4329566, dated April 30, 2013, application date March 2nd, 2011, and Grigori Grabovoi has registration number 852555853, dated July 19, 2013, application date March 2nd, 2011. Information about these trademarks is given on the official website of the United States Patent and Trademark Office that registers trademarks. That is, while creating his video, Stefan Marty illegally used the trademarks of Grigori Grabovoi. According to Article L717-1 of the French Intellectual Property Code, Code Propriété Intellectuelle CPI, violation of the prohibitions provided for in Articles 9, 10, 13, and 15 of Regulation ES 2017 1001 of June 14, 2017 on the trademark of the European Union constitutes a violation entailing civil liability of its author. According to the provisions of Article 15(1) of Resolution number 2019-1169 of November 13, 2019, the provisions arising from this resolution shall enter into force from the date of entry into force of the resolution adopted for its application and no later than the end of December 15, 2019. Point 9. At the end of the video, Stefan Marty says, quote, "But if you've been following the video from the very beginning and didn't immediately jump to the conclusion, then you've already realized that this PRK1U is a complete farce. Without a doubt, this is one of the worst scams I have ever seen, except that here we are talking about an 11,000 euro farce with all this quantum nonsense around it and numerical rules that must be followed that appear out of nowhere and are based on absolutely nothing specific regarding functions of this device." I say device, but it's not even a device. It's just an assembly of several circuits that represent a kind of gas factory to make the LED of the flashlight blink. That's all there is to it. You don't need to be an experienced electronics expert to understand what it really is. End quote. 9.1. The conclusions of Frenchman Stefan Marty violate the intangible benefits of a citizen and the legal entity manufacturing the PRK1U device. All legal entities granting the right to use an intellectual property object, including PRK1U, sublicensees, distributors in general, since Stefan Marty opposes technologies to ensure eternal life for all. The idea of the real and potential good in any object of intellectual property is personified by the economic shell or the sphere of economic relations in which the object is located. This is its economic space. The temporary regime of economic use of the object of property is realized through the economic, or rather through the commercial turnover of this object on the market. Here, the object of ownership as a technical effector, source of technical effect, turns into an economic effector, source of economic effect. The economic effect is, first of all, the additional profit that this object of property generates against the background of other assets in a particular business. Of course, the amount of profit is also influenced by the quality of security and protection of facilities from competitors in the market. Also, the most important economic characteristics are the useful life of the facility and the commercial potential, which is the maximum at the time of creation of the facility. Commercial potential is the maximum total profit that can be obtained with the most effective use of the object of law. The most effective user of rights is an investor of his own funds, seeking to make a profit and commercialize an innovation as quickly as possible, which leads to an overall increase in welfare when it enters the free market. Thus, the commercialization of intellectual property objects of Grigori Petrovich Grabovoi ensures eternal life in a market economy, allowing the transfer of technology to society, and from payments for intellectual property, capital arises for the creation of the following instrument technologies that ensure eternal life. Therefore, everyone who stands up for life needs to contribute to the growth of commercial demand for the works and devices of Grigori Grabovoi to promote sublicense agreements for the use of Grigori Grabovoi's intellectual property. Intangible benefits are protected in accordance with laws in the cases and in the manner prescribed by them, as well as in those cases and to the extent that the use of methods for protecting civil rights follows from the essence of the violated intangible benefit or personal non-property right and the nature of the consequences of this violation. Additional ways to protect the violated rights of a citizen. Intangible benefits belonging to him can be protected by the court recognizing the fact of violation of his personal non-property right, publishing a court decision on the violation, as well as by suppressing or prohibiting actions that violate or create a threat of violation of personal non-property rights, or encroaching or creating a threat of encroachment on intangible benefits. In addition, in cases where information discrediting the honor, dignity, or business reputation of a citizen has become widely known, and in this regard a refutation cannot be brought to public attention, a citizen is granted the right to demand the deletion of relevant information as well as the suppression or prohibition of further dissemination of said information by seizure and destruction without any compensation, copies of material media containing the specified information made for the purpose of introducing into civil circulation, if without destroying such copies of material media, deleting the relevant information is impossible. In order to restore violated rights, the applicant can use both special methods of protecting honor, dignity, and business reputation, refuting widespread defamatory information, publishing his response, deleting relevant information, for example, from the internet, and general civil legal methods of protection for compensation moral damage or compensation for losses caused by the dissemination of defamatory information. Legal entities and individual entrepreneurs as business entities have the right to protect their business reputation by refuting information that defames them or publishing their response in the press, as well as making claims for compensation for losses caused by the dissemination of such information. In the field of law, a spatial characteristic is the territory of action, a temporary one is the period of validity, which determine the parameters of the civil turnover of this object of law. The main legal characteristic of the property is the quality of legal protection, which implies the potential for high-quality protection. The better legal protection is provided, the more effective protection against unscrupulous users of this property can be. Protection is laid at the stage of creation of the object and is strengthened at the stage of its use. However, the most attractive objects of property often have to be protected from encroachments already at the stage of creation, but more often still at the stage of use. The spatio-temporal regime of protection, and protection is more relevant the better the content of the property itself, that is, the more effective its technical content, which is always primary. Therefore, highly qualified engineers and scientists should work in contact with highly qualified patent specialists, patent attorneys, and lawyers so that the high technical quality corresponds to the high legal quality of protection that this object is endowed with. The legal shell of the property, expressed by the regimes of protection and protection of the object, embodies the idea of justice in it. The Law Center recommends initiating lawsuits and statements of crimes to law enforcement agencies in relation to an individual, Stefan Marty, on the part of the legal entity that signed the sublicense agreement and transferred the PRK1U device to an individual, as well as all other legal entities granting the right to use the intellectual property object, including PRK1U, to sublicensees, distributors, and in general everyone, since Stefan Marty opposes technologies to ensure eternal life for everyone. Also, identify the individual whose device was illegally transferred to a third party and claim the disassembled device from him. To demand the removal of information related to defamation and other crimes by Stefan Marty from websites and other places. To demand the suppression and prohibition of further dissemination of the specified information by seizing and destroying without any compensation copies of tangible media containing the specified information made for the purpose of introducing into civil circulation if it is impossible to delete the relevant information without destroying such copies of tangible media. May 8, 2024.